There are a lot fewer two-parent families.
What's worth more, $1 today or $1 tomorrow?
Almost nobody gets out of love alive.
Prisoners' rights is out of sight, out of mind.
Is your brain on God?
You ain't ready to
There are discussions
how
as
they thought
black families we have to have them.
What's worth more, $1 today or $1 tomorrow? What's worth more, $1
Welcome, folks, to your Reality Gurus, the show where we take a commonsensical approach to issues through complex conversation. I'm your host, Cleve. I'm getting to a topic that's pretty near and dear to my heart, man. The diet and health in the black community, man. With diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, cholesterol, prostate cancer, you name it, man. And it just seems like we're in our community, we kind of see these issues and ailments a lot earlier than other ethnic groups. Got a few people here with me today. We're going to discuss it. So, folks, Tashi, Anyae, DB, what's going on with you folks today, man? Talk to me.
Chilling.
All right, well, you hear it, man. Health, diet in the black community, man. I named a couple ailments, things that I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of. Probably got individuals in your family that suffer from this stuff. How big of an issue is this?
Yeah, man, it's a huge issue within our community. Speaking personally, my family deals with a lot of different illnesses, from diabetes to high blood pressure and down the list. I saw these things coming up as a kid, and I knew that something wasn't right about this. I'm like, hold on, why does everyone in my family have health issues? Mm-hmm. So I knew at some point in time that, I would come to terms to just a healthier lifestyle, but I didn't know in which realm that would be. So it wasn't until 2009 I caught food poisoning real bad 3 times that year.
Oh wow!
And also on top of that, a close homie of mine passed away from food poisoning. So I was like, oh no! I'm like, oh no! I'm like, that must be that sign from the Creator right there. Something. It's time to change it up right now. So I started to do a lot of research on, the vegan lifestyle. I never knew that I would go that extreme with it, but I said, you know what? Yeah, let me check this thing out. So I did my research. My wife and I, we jumped full into it, and I got to be honest, I went cold turkey in the beginning. That wasn't the way either. Just to go straight to turkey. I was having relapses. I was feeling weak at times. My body was just depleted. So did a little bit more research, and I found out that the best way would be to slowly wean myself off the meat. Nothing against the meat, those who partake in such, but it just wasn't for me. It wasn't agreeing with my body. So been vegan strong since 2009. I've seen many benefits because of it. Much more energy. I feel that my mental level is on a whole nother level. My senses have been heightened. I still got my youthful look. That's what most say. I'm 34. They say I don't look like it. I should that lifestyle on to my children. So all they know is the vegan lifestyle.
That's interesting. Now, so then, all right. Well, since you throw out the vegan, well, first of all, because of my own ignorance, what's the difference between vegetarian and vegan? Please tell me real quick. What's the difference between the two?
Vegans, we're not dealing with nothing from an animal at all. Nothing from an animal at all. There's slight things that vegetarians deal with from animals. If I'm not mistaken, it should be like the milk and the cheese. I know a lot of our people get away from the milk and cheese. Mm-hmm. We love that cheese.
Okay, so the reason I bring that up is because are you saying that's pretty? It's an individual thing, or are you saying the solution for getting away from some of these issues in the black community health-wise, we need to transition to like a vegan lifestyle? Is that what you say? Or are you just saying just for your own personal and your family? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying me personally, for my family, that's what we found that has worked best.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would add is you're supposed to probably be eating more vegetables in your diet anyway than fruit, than meat, regardless. We're talking about diet, regardless of talking about healthy lifestyle. I wouldn't advocate giving up meat, but you should definitely have more vegetables in your diet, regardless.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tashi, what about you, Tashi? What do you think, man? About because I'm going to reserve comment on the vegan vegetarian thing until I first find out how everybody feels about this. Go ahead. What do you think about that idea?
I've tried to be vegan. It's very, very hard. I think I would do something closer to vegetarian. Right now I'm moving to pescatarian, but I have
Holy
issues
cow.
with certain
Please tell me what that means, because I'm
pescatarian.
You eat fish. That means you eat fish. You eat vegetables and fish. Yeah.
Vegetables and fish. Okay.
Yeah, but I have a problem with iodine content on certain things. So it's like I can't really eat
like the shellfish and stuff.
certain types of shellfish. So because of that, like one time I ate rock crab or stone crab or whatever it's called, and I almost died.
Wow.
Yeah, I had an allergic reaction and my throat closed up, and like I was like, please, Lord, save me. It was really crazy. So I'm kind of like, I have to just really, like he said, you have to gradually transition into something. So I'm transitioning away from, I really don't eat beef. I'm West Indian, so pork is there. But I rarely eat pork. And I'm transitioning to just fish. But there's a lot of things, like right now I'm kind of like, I don't want to touch shrimp because certain concepts. And but I definitely can't live without butter. So it's like, I can. No, because listen, I'm like, I'm in between. I'm very just basically being conscious of, what parts of whatever things that I'm using, how they benefit me. Like recently, I added sea moss to my diet. As a girl, we used to drink iris moss, the drink. That was primarily the men would drink it, and there was health benefits to it that I really didn't know as a kid.
That's what I heard, right?
Yeah, but now I follow certain things on social media and things, and I've been integrating some people call it sea moss, iris moss, whatever, into my diet. So what I do is I just clean it, soak it, blend it with water, and it's like a thick concoction, and then I'll add it to whatever tea or water. Like it's usually cold, but tea or water that I'm drinking, and I've seen differences in my body as well. With just adding that.
All right.
I don't want to. And I can say it because Greg, you know me long enough to know that 2 years I was a vegetarian myself.
Yeah, you gave it a good 2 year shot, bro. I mean, you did, man.
And you made it hard. You kept on dangling wings in my face. You made it hard, but I did try. I did try. And I know it's hard, but one of the things I realized is that because when I look at even my own neighborhood, the way it's set up, it's kind of hard to live a healthy lifestyle in any way. Like if I go up my block, I have a Kentucky Fried Chicken, I have a McDonald's, I have a Burger King, I have a Taco Bell, I have a Hardee's, I have like 8 different fast food restaurants within less than a mile distance compared to eating someplace I have a salad, which is a few miles away. And I think that's part of the setup. That's part of the reason why a lot of communities that we're talking about have these issues, because they don't have access to clean eating, and a lot of it, I don't think is a matter of extremity. I think it's a matter of when you have too much of one thing. Like if you eat too much burgers, you're going to have health problems. If you eat too much pork, you're going to have health problems. You got to find a balance in between all of that.
Now, I wasn't going to try to make this like a meat eating vegan argument or nothing like that, but like specifically like with Dan, years ago when he was into that, we were young, and I used to fuck with him or whatever, because I thought it was, I used to fuck with him. I mean, but even to this day, I still maintain that I still feel the same as far as meat is concerned. The problem, and again, I'm not trying to make this an argument because I want to focus specifically on the Black community and our health. But if we're going to talk about vegetarian, vegan, things of that nature, right? I need someone who practices that to explain to me, where do you get your protein content from? Because if you're telling me we're going to have to be drinking Metamucil and taking pills and stuff to get my protein, then I'm off that. I'm going to get a burger, going to get some bacon, going to get...
Well, since I'm not vegan, I'm probably going to do injustice. I'm going to leave this up to Ye, but I know you can get stuff like that from beans, grains, from there might be some supplements. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if it's no Metamucil.
Okay, let's be no. Let me rephrase the question. Question, because if you're going to suggest that a bean is going to give you the type of protein that a chicken breast would, then
lentil beans.
So a lentil bean has the same protein as the chicken breast.
Hey, lentils have high levels in protein. A lot of your grains, a lot of your nuts do as well too.
Well, okay, so all right, so here's the thing. Since you put a little personal story back about, let's say, I'm almost 2 years now, man, close to 2 years. I was like 313 pounds. Okay. And it was at that point that I was like realizing like, whoa, like you didn't let yourself slip like crazy. Like, what are you gonna do about it? Started working out. Didn't really change my diet as much as far as like what it was that I eat. I kind of reduced the amount that I ate though, and I was able to lose a significant amount of weight because of it. I feel a whole lot better now, and I never took meat out of my diet. This is why and especially now at the age I am, if I was like 19, 20 and weighed 300 pounds and lost 100 pounds around that time, people will say, well, he worked hard, his metabolism is high, but I'm 38 now. All right. And we know as we get older, we start to slow the fuck down. And I was able to achieve that, and I still was eating meat. So again, I want to be sure that because I'm not with the vegan and vegetarian thing, I'm gonna be honest. So I just want to make sure that if that's something we want to suggest, let's get into it, man. Let's really make sure.
Look, first of all, I don't want to make it seem like that's what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting though is a balance within your diet. I'm not suggesting either or. I think both is fine for the person. But if we're talking about overall, you don't have to give up meat, but you gotta realize when you're becoming too extreme with your meat eating. Like you said, you was 300-something pounds. You made a change. You reduced your food intake, and you increase the activity. You know what I mean? That's typical, I think, with any kind of diet that you do anyway.
Well, you know I mean? Okay, so and this is the last piece, and I'll move on. But the thing about it is intense as I was going with the workout, I'm having a hard time believing that I would be able to, and I was drinking or taking protein supplements in addition to the meat that I was eating, just to maintain and the rebuilding of muscle. So, do you think that a bodybuilder or someone who lifts weights could have a vegan lifestyle and still make? And this is why I'm trying to be key about that.
And again, I don't want to speak out of turn because I'm not a vegan vegetarian, but I follow a few people like on Instagram or whatever. They claim they are vegan and they're bodybuilders and they're exercisers. So it might exist. What they do, I can't tell you for sure. It does exist. I'm pretty sure though, like how you had to take supplements, there has to be some kind of supplement intake anyway if you're going intense on your body like that. If you're bodybuilding, not like regular exercise, like you're not going walking around the block. If you're doing that extreme workout, there's going to be some kind of supplements that you're going to have to take.
Okay. Yeah, and just to add to you, Dane, I've seen a lot of different plant-based protein supplements out there. So those things are out there to help the vegan bodybuilder. Just to add on to the topic of specifically eating meat, me as a vegan, I actually don't have a problem with people eating meat. I would actually be eating meat myself if I knew where it came from, if I knew it wasn't tampered with, if I knew that they weren't pumping all of these things in it. Like if I had a farmer that lived up the street, it raised those animals up the way they were supposed to be raised and just killed them naturally, organically, I'd be eating meat right now. But because that's not the case, I can't take those risks out here.
And that brings up my next question. Is it more about the quality of food, or let me be careful when using the word food, because I'm understanding that a lot of this shit that we're eating is not even food, genetically modified shit that looks and supposed to taste like something specific. So would it be that it's more of a case of the quality of stuff that we're eating?
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is.
Because like I think about supermarkets like Whole Foods, where produce and meats and stuff in there, it costs a little more, but you know it comes from, like you were saying, like a let's say a farm that is credible. They're not using certain hormones or pesticides or whatever it is that goes on or whatever. So yeah, so I mean, I'm wondering, like, if we had, maybe more access to better quality produce and meats and stuff, maybe that would have something to do. What y'all think about that?
Yeah, that
I
definitely.
agree. Yeah, I agree completely. And I mean, that goes back to some of the stuff I was saying earlier. It's a matter of access. The fact that if you don't have that stuff around you, if you don't have a Whole Foods around you, or you don't have the money. Like I could imagine if you have a large family, like you have 3 kids, that grocery bill can get pretty high. That sometimes you take the low cost option. You know what I mean, I think a lot of that is in play as well.
Tashi, let me ask you a question. Being that you are an educator, right? I wonder about the the lunches and stuff, and that the kids are eating or stuff, like the quality of food. I haven't been to school in 20 years, and my son's here. They got like an a la carte program, so if he doesn't bring his own lunch, he goes and like buys something that actually costs money. We're not talking about your regular styrofoam tray and they mashed potatoes or whatever. We're not talking about that. He has an option to go do.
Pizza.
They might have it. This is the thing. They might have it. I just don't think that he's eating shit. You see what I'm saying? But I mean, for schools where that is given, I wonder, like, what is it that you're seeing, like, as far as the quality of food that's being served to the kids in the schools that you're teaching them.
That's funny. Yesterday, I posted about the school that I'm at right now for the summer serving lobster.
Really? Is it real? I mean, like real lobster, like real? Not okay.
A whole one.
Wow.
A whole lot.
So you get the bib and the cracker and all that shit too?
Honey, yeah.
Now these are students or for like the faculty? It
was for the faculty, but
okay.
That was the type of quality of things that I was seeing there. I can say that between my son's school, he's in public school, and the Catholic school that I work in during the year, the quality is about the same. They try to incorporate some type of vegetable in there. I don't believe that what I would serve my child is what is served at school. Like my son is going to be like, ew, that doesn't look like my mommy's, But they try. Every school is different. They have different budgets, so the quality is reflective of the budget. When I used to go to high school, I went to school in downtown Manhattan. We had salads every day. You could choose the salad. You had carrot. They had carrots. They had cucumbers. It was fresh. We weren't able to, but around the corner was a Whole Foods. That's when Whole Foods just came out. That's when they first came to the city. This was 2000, just about 2004, 2000. And I remember, I'm old. But the quality of food is dependent upon what type of school you attend. Most definitely.
Got you. Well, I tell you what, man. I mentioned diabetes, the high blood pressure, and and all of that stuff. But I mean, even if we put the food, part aside, what would you say to people, as far as about being more responsible about it? Like, what does the Bible say? What is that?
There's 2 things. All right. I want your Bible quote to come out.
I mean, listen, I don't know. I don't know much about it at all. I don't know much about, but what they say, man's supposed to live, what is it, 70 or something like that, or 70 something. Then somebody tell me that y'all know what I'm talking about. Nobody. I'm gonna say. Okay, so for score is 20 years, we're supposed to live till we're 70 or whatever. And when you think about the life expectancy of Black men, this particular, right? When I think we're living shorter lifespans than we were, say 20, 30 years ago. I'm talking about, as far as health-related issues, health-related deaths. We're dying because of these, like I said, diabetes, cholesterol, blood pressure, all that stuff at an earlier age than some of our, ancestors were, 20, 30 years ago. So what would you say to somebody now? Like, are you paying attention?
I got 3 things real quick. First one, I know even with myself and my family, we quite a few people passed away from cancer in my family. and finding that when we going down genetically, my mom did a test. There's a lot more people that I didn't know that we are linked to cancer. So there are some things genetically that's passed down to generation to make sure you always get yourself checked. You got to always do kind of an early prevention for a lot of that stuff. Second one, I'm kind of thinking of a story I heard about somebody who had asthma and chronic asthma. And, this doctor, they try to look at it differently. Like, I guess there's a group of doctors, like a small group, that they're trying not to just link, like, when you come in, your illness to one specific cause, but also to how you live outside of how you live in your own community. So basically, they was able to link this one person's asthma to the house that they were living in, because the house that they were living in had mold and all this other stuff. So it made me think about the conditions that we live in, that you got to kind of check the conditions you live in on top of that.
Yeah.
True.
And I forgot what the third one was. I forgot what I was going with the
Well,
third one.
you left off on a good one with the living conditions. Tashi, you had something you want to say about that?
Well, living conditions are very but it's very true that if you live in a house that's of poor quality, or the habitability level is lower than another, you're more than likely going to deal with a lot of environmental ramifications from it. Like hoarders, they usually have some type of asthma because they have a whole bunch of stuff in their house. The air quality is poorer. Also, they're breathing in a lot more particles because, let's say, they hoard books. All of that comes into play. So a lot of things are environmental, and I truly believe that. One thing in the Black community we always suffer from is vitamin D deficiency, but we have melanin in our skin. So whereas we don't take in vitamin D as well as other people of lighter skin tone. So that's always the issue we have. I do feel like beyond environmentally, socially, we have issues where when we get together, when we potluck or whatever, we eat the traditional foods for celebration instead of trying to look for different alternatives. I'm a person, I have a thyroid condition. I don't believe in soy. Like, soy is not good for Black people. There has been studies that show that soy has a direct relationship to causing carcinogens and things like that coming into our bodies. And when it's metabolized, it causes issues with Black people in general. That's just the statistics and the things that I've been looking at. So as a person with hypothyroidism, I can't, or I stay away from soy because it metabolizes differently in my body. And that's one of the reasons why I can't go 100% vegan or vegetarian, because a lot of things that are replaced, they include replacements include soy. And then, if I'm going to go vegetarian, I'm a very ethical person. I try to keep, one mindset. There's different types of vegan and there's different types of vegetarian. So it's just a lot of things that we need to work on. But primarily the biggest problem with regard to food and the relationship with our health is social interaction and, our traditional foods that we eat. People eating red beans and rice with pigtails in it and all that. You can find alternatives to those things. I did want to say that my grandmother and we call him Pop Pop, my grandpa, Pop Pop, they changed their diet and they saw significant differences in their diet. And this is a woman that had, my grandmother had 2 heart attacks back to back. My grandfather has always had weight issues, and they changed their diet to the standard American suggestion, which is like one part meat and 2 parts greens and 1 part grain. They really changed their diet. And diet really does have an impact on your health. It really does.
I want to add another factor because I remember while she was talking, and it's kind of linked to the environmental factor on top of everything else. Like, one of the things I constantly do believe in is how stress could really cause a lot of illness in your body as well. And the fact that we talked about before, like the stress that a Black person has within America, I think a lot of that is included in the way our health is. And I'm a big believer of myself of trying to gain some kind of mental health as well. So some way, somehow trying to release some of that stress. I mean, and it's deeper than I think, because we just had a conversation about suicide among kids, about Black kids, and I think a lot of that is internal, some kind of internal stress somewhere that you don't realize. Like me, I try to meditate, I try to draw, I try to do something. I do believe in the fact that some of that mental health, you got to take care of yourself on that, on top of the physical, on top of the dieting, and it's like a trifecta.
It's to go back to the environmental. The first thing that came to my mind when y'all mentioned environmental, I started thinking about what Ray talked about down in Alabama. Worst poverty. There's communities down there that's suffering from hookworm. Right, and then you go run back up here to Michigan. Flint, Michigan. You got hookworm. Yeah, there's a community. Community that being that he say that it's so poor down there that where hookworm probably could be just cured with like what, I don't know, an antibiotic or something, fucking shot. These people are not able to get that stuff probably because the health care for them then is probably sucks or whatever. But being that that's something that's environmental. Also was thinking about up in Flint where I just recently heard that lead is still in the fucking water up there. So
and the funny thing is, Flint is not the only state at all. Like I remember reading an article. There's quite a few states that, and it's not all the water. It might be paint or other things, but they fail a lot of that lead thing, or they just at the mark where they passable. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of states that poorer states or poorer parts of the states that have that same condition.
I mean, if we stay on the lead in the water thing, that was such a crazy story to me because growing up. I mean, I always had, how did you get water growing up if it wasn't in a fucking cup? You had your head under the faucet, you was drinking out of a hydrant or something like that. And I sit there and I think about that, man, that these kids are there, just doing natural shit. I used to feel like tap water was amazing. I could have been, and sitting there drinking water enriched with lead or whatever the fuck it is. But yeah, I have had just recently. I had a uncle. I actually passed. He lived a full life, but when I start thinking about certain other relatives and start thinking about some of the diabetes is big in my family. That's one of the things that I was afraid. I've been afraid of. I've been tested, of course, when I go get physicals, and knock on wood, my A1C levels are fine. But that's one of the biggest things, and brings me to my next question about sugar. Now, I ain't a big sugar dude at all. I watch cats, at the gas station get coffee, and these cats turn the sugar thing all the way over. And I'd be like, holy shit. So, I mean, this is where I start like responsibility of people. Like, I can't blame this shit on just quality of food. I can't blame it on just environmental. You got cats in here spinning sugar containers over like this to drink their coffee. There's a problem there too. Which one of y'all sugar lovers? I know one of y'all is sugar lover here. Who's a sugar lover here?
I am.
I can't lie. I'm a sugar lover.
Well, y'all have to tell me what is it about sugar that y'all. I can't. I mean, I'm not gonna say I don't eat sugar.
They say it's a drug. They say it's a drug. The way it works. And this is from the little bit of things that I looked at. This is my knowing a little about a lot. Is that. Is that the way sugar works? Like, all right, so with most things that you put in your body, there's like a limit. That's why you get tired of eating certain things. With sugar, you don't have that limit at all. That sugar is constant. Like there's no cap on it. That basically, once you get that sugar in you, and all those pleasure things that you get from it, once they hit your neurons, the endorphins and all that shit, the dopamine get into you. That you kind of chase it like any other drug. And some people classify it just like a drug.
That's incredible.
Yeah, a lot of people chase that sugar.
That's incredible.
They after that white girl. You know what I mean? They
Oh boy. I tell you what, man. I'm like the opposite. Well, I mean, I don't say opposite because I don't even know if carbs is like the opposite of sugar, but it's the carb is what. Well, I was a big rice guy. Like rice and maybe bread. It doesn't taste sweet, but if there's sugar in there, all right, whatever. But like I'm talking about cane sugar. That shit turns me off, to tell you the truth, man. It honestly does, And listen, I'm not. You don't get me wrong. You have your moments where motherfucker wants a piece of cake, wants a fudge pop or something. But I'm talking about when There's
So
people.
let me ask you: do you use any kind of sweetener at all, or like are you into like syrups or like
Yes. See
like
it.
artificial sweeteners? Okay.
But again, you're not gonna. I'm not putting a whole bunch of nothing on nothing. Whether it be syrup, whether it be in any form, I'm not putting a whole bunch on anything. Like coming up, man. Which one? Who used to drink Kool-Aid coming up? Any of y'all used to drink Kool-Aid coming up?
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, it's
No, listen to me. Let me be clear. When I say Kool-Aid, I'm talking about the way black people make Kool-Aid. Because I've never
Yeah.
with
listen. I cannot say
with the baking sugar and yeah. See, yeah.
it's not Kool-Aid unless you got the bag of sugar with it.
But that's why I said Kool-Aid.
It gotta be dark. It gotta be dark. But I have to say something. As a person that has a series of health issues, I'm hypoglycemic. So there's times where I need sugar to function. But at the same time, I also have diabetes in my family. Otherwise, insulin deficiencies and overages. But if I drink something that has an artificial sweetener in it, I can't have it because it automatically turns. I get sick off of it. So it's like I have this. I always have issues with my health because I need sugar to function because my blood sugar will drop very low. But also, if I have certain types of sugar alternatives, which most people would say, well, drink something that's sugar free. They have sugar alternatives in there that throw me off balance as well. And then I have a thyroid condition. But I say that to say, if I didn't know the only reason why I know these things is because I explore my health. If you don't explore your health, you won't know these things about you. Sometimes people pour a whole bunch of sugar in their coffee because they like the way it tastes, but they also get that high, like Dane was saying, from it. But then they wonder why in an hour or two they're also slumped over.
They crash.
But because it's become a norm, they probably do that every day. They don't realize that that's the downer from sugar.
Right.
So if they were cognizant of what was going on with what they're intaking, then they would notice that they'd have to cut back on the sugar a little bit just so they don't have such a hard drop down in energy or hard feeling when they drop down from that sugar high. But it's very important for us to look into our health and know what's going on with our bodies. I've been through enough health crises to know different things about my body and to be conscious of it. I'm not perfect, but that's the biggest thing is to go to the doctor, learn these things. And also, I have to say this. I had a doctor from when I was 16 to about 28. And I had to dead him because he would not hear my concerns. He would just hear what he wanted to hear. It is important to get a physician that respects your opinion, respect your interpretation of the symptoms that you find, which are signals and signs that go on in your body, and they respect that enough to say, you know what, I'm not sure what you're talking about, but let's explore it because there are physicians in this world that would say, oh, I don't know about that, so it can't be that. And that was the type of physician I was dealing with. But when you're 16 and you're dealing with this type of physician, you're like, oh, he knows what he's talking about. But once you learn your body and become cognizant of what's going on with your body, you're able to say, well, he's not hearing me out 100%. So it's just about, personal knowledge of what's going on with your body and being, knowing that you have to protect it. And if that means that you have to find another physician, please do so.
Early.
And that's a very good point because we haven't talked about the medical aspect yet. And I agree with her hardly because even the system, the way it's set up, the medical system, is that you're going in there normally because you have an issue. So the only thing they have is you telling them what that issue is, and they're gonna go through their experience and try to link it to something else, but they don't know you, which is one thing. So you know your own condition. I think sometimes people don't go in there, they don't ask the right questions to the doctor, or they don't tell the doctor the full situation that the doctor could actually, properly diagnose what it is. They have an idea. Perfect example, I went in one time because I broke a bone in my foot, and I went to urgent care, and this motherfucker said, oh, I think you might have gout. I'm like, how the fuck I got gout?
Did he X-ray you, or he just looked at your foot?
He X-rayed me, me, but it was a strange situation because the bone I have on my foot is not like a regular bone. Like only 30% of the population has this bone, and it's broke. So even when he saw the little fracture, I guess in the bone, since you don't normally see a bone anyway within the regular foot, he didn't link it right away. So his thing was, and I'm guessing because I'm in Georgia, it's a big meat and potatoes place. The neighborhood I'm at, a lot of people are overweight or older or whatever, and he just automatically linked the shit together. Right. But that's one thing right there. Two, and this is another aspect that I want to bring up. I don't know how to frame it, but like I hear like a lot of times the way that, and I heard this recently about how doctors, like if a black person comes in there with pain to the hospital, a white person coming with the same amount of pain, they would treat that white person different because they think a black person could take that pain more. Like we're kind of considered a little bit more supernatural when it comes to like pain tolerance and how it's looked. And so they'll diagnose you saying they'll give you different medicines, and some of them also I think has a link to like the idea of abuse between a certain amount of people. And I kind of wonder how that plays out. Like how does that play when you do go to a doctor?
Well, the interesting thing is, at first I thought you was going to say that the reason why they treat different was because the perception that we may not have adequate insurance. That's what I thought she was going to say. But when you, I mean, yeah, but I know that one. This thing you're talking about now, that's something I never heard of. So I want to explore that a little bit more about.
I think that's true in a way because when you're learning in the foundations of medicine, you're gonna learn the physiology of certain races. Each race has its own norms physically and responses in the body. So they learn those things. They learn about groups, and then they learn about individual responses. When sometimes you look at medicine and it says side effects. Side effects sometimes are saying in women, in men, or you'll see, and I don't know if you guys have seen this. I've seen where it says in Asian populations, this is a response because it happens. So sometimes you have them respond to you according to the race or according to whatever health conditions are in the background. So let's say you have cancer, and then you also, as a black person, are more likely to have heart disease, diabetes, those types of things. So of course the response is different. And this is me taking out any type of racial feelings. This is a doctor. This is my opinion of a doctor taking in the racial norms of that group health wise. So if a white person comes in and he has cancer, but he has no history of diabetes, health, heart disease, the treatment is going to be different. This is without having anybody.
Gotcha.
So it's just, you got to remember, we deal with diabetes more than the white community. We do. So it's just like I try not to put race in there, but it happens. But at the same time, that's how they learn to treat people is they think about the individual and they also think about what happens or what this community is susceptible to. When I go to the doctor, they automatically ask, of course, everybody goes to the doctor, they automatically ask family history. So they got to look at that too. And then, like Greg said, it comes down to what's your insurance like? What can I get out of you? Those things come into play later on, but, those are things.
So then now it makes me ask the question about education now. Because if there is going to be different treatments that, blacks would receive versus whites, depending on what the ailment is, if we don't know that, like, how do we know we're being treated properly? How do we know? Because when you mention the side effects, this is another thing. I hate medication. Prescription medication. I can't stand the stuff, and primarily because of the side effects. A lot of those side effects start affecting organs that may have no problems whatsoever. So now you're going ahead, you want to address your diabetes problem, and while you're doing that, next thing you know, 5 years later, now your kidneys are failing, and now you got it's so. I mean, I'm with the idea of changing your diet, especially if that could keep me off of medication. if it can keep me off of a regimen of medication for as long as humanly possible. I know eventually I'm gonna have to take something, but as long as I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna try to do what I need to do to keep that down. I mean, I don't know, man. It's never.
And I kind of always feel like the way Western medicine is set up, and I'm gonna pass it to you after that. Yeah, I'm sorry. The way Western medicine is set up is not made for a long-term fix when it comes to your health. It's only made for immediate shit. So if you're going through something right away, I mean, let's take some typical, like you got a headache, you take ibuprofen. You know what I mean? But you don't take it constantly if you're always going to have a headache. There are no side effects is definitely going to happen. You got to take control of your health. You got to, regardless of anything. You got to take control.
Like your typical mainstream name brand headache medicine, fever, stuff like that. I'm cool with that. If it's been on the market,
I mean, even prescription stuff, even prescription. Like I'm saying though, like if we're talking about chronic illness, like you say diabetes or like thyroid and all that stuff, that is more of a problem. That's when you really got to start controlling your own health. You got to start controlling your diet a little bit more. You know what I mean? That medicine is only good short term. That's when you start having more of those problems, and that's only like to me. Like I don't take medicine at all. I mean, my wife get upset because I get bad allergies. I would just stay the fuck home and go to sleep, and I'll be good the next day.
Thug it out. That's how I feel about it. I'm thugging it out, man.
But I know some people don't have maybe the same tolerance as me, or whatever. If you do it once, that's fine. If you're taking it the whole allergy season, then that's a problem. Then you're gonna start having some side effects. Same thing I feel about any kind of chronic illness. You gotta link it down.
Well,
you know what I mean? You gotta.
Sometimes you don't have a choice with the chronic illness. That's what I mean. Like they put you on a regimen. You know what I'm saying? We need to see you here every 2 weeks. Come get your bottle. They give you your little.
Sure. Well, no, for that you do. You got to get checked up, definitely. But I mean, you can still do your own shit as far as your diet and all that shit.
I'll just say this to the people. I would, let's. If you can, start working on your health now before you have these ailments. Because once you have them, I mean, it's going to be even harder to kind of maintain what you want to maintain. Address that now. Diabetes, insulin shots,
Yeah, I want to switch to Ye, mainly because I know the reasons you said you became a vegetarian, vegan actually, was because of health problems. And what I know about most vegans, usually, since we're talking about, the medical field, usually a lot of them cut out the medical field as much as they possibly can. I'm wondering how does that play with your own life, actually?
That was actually a big help. And the thing I was going to suggest is that really, if it's not a major issue that we're dealing with, we need to really get away from a lot of these hospitals. We need to start really utilizing our neighborhood Black nutritionists. They're out there. And they have that information for us about our diets and the things we need to be doing. Speaking specifically, let's use something just like a headache. In this country, in this time frame, we always want to use the quick fix. We want to get rid of it real quick. But we need to start diagnosing what's causing the headache. Because a lot of times it's simple things that we're just not doing, whether it be we're not eating enough, whether it's just we're dehydrated, whether we're not, exercising. It's things that we can do to prevent these things instead of always getting the quick fix that could cause some type of side effects down the line. So that education is big.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, I just think, trying to work on, and I'm not going to front like I'm the pitch of health or nothing like that. Like I said, I just arrived at this conclusion a couple years ago. Of course, when you're young, you feel you're invincible. Nothing really affects you. But again, as I'm getting old, I'm starting to realize, and then you see people around you, some of the things that people around you are going through, and it starts to make you think, a little bit more about yourself. And because I don't want to be on some kind of regimen with all kinds of medications, like in my later years.
But with regard to my thyroid medicine, like I started, my mom has hyperthyroidism. I have hypothyroidism. Hypo is slow, hyper is fast. In 2006, I just what's wrong with me? I didn't know what was wrong with me. Just sick. and then I was diagnosed with clinical depression, and I was just, I couldn't, they could not figure out like what was going on, so they put me on depression medicine, and I kept having, still dealing with this. And then he ran, the same doctor I was talking about, he ran a series of tests, and I found out I had hypothyroidism. Thyroidism affects your cognitive abilities, the way you deal with stress, the way your body responds to stress, all those things. If he didn't go back and do that um, round of testing, the second round of testing, he would never have known that I had hypothyroidism. And my hair fell out, all type of things happened. But it could have been, oh, it's a side effect of Effexor, which is what I was taking. But you have to have a doctor that's well rounded, or looking into everything and looking at you as a whole person. That has nothing to do with what happened later on, and I got rid of him. It just was because I started to learn my own body. And I say that to say is like, okay, after being on it's called levothyroxine for my thyroid since 2006, I learned that when I lose weight, I have less dependency on levothyroxine, so I have less to take. So as time goes on, as I gain weight, I know I have to take more. If I lose weight, I have to take less. So I've been conscious of losing weight and being more active. And the more activity I do, because I have to force myself to do it, hypothyroidism slows you down. That's why, a lot of women, a lot of black women, a lot of minority women, Indian women, black women, and Spanish women, but black women primarily have hypothyroidism. They gain a lot of weight. They lose their hair, not alopecia, but their hair thins. Um, it's because, we have hypothyroidism and we're inactive. So when you force yourself to be active, you force yourself to change your diet, and then you also get yourself on the right regimen, then you'll see betterment in your body. So it's just about, like I said, being conscious of what's going on with yourself, and also being an advocate for yourself. Because if I didn't say, with this doctor, I need you to look at stuff the way I'm looking at stuff, I wouldn't have gotten the help. Or
What's the matter?
I'm sorry, I'm hearing feedback.
Oh, you got feedback?
I don't hear any now.
I'm hearing it. And also, let me give you a prime example with hypothyroidism. So I was on levothyroxine, and he turned around and added something new to the market, and that new item to the market was like a pig. It was a pig hormone that was supposed to supplement my thyroid condition. So I started taking it. I had no problems with it or whatever. And one day I decided to go and eat shrimp. And I had this crazy allergic reaction. I've never had an allergic reaction to seafood since before that. And I dealt with it, and then I kept taking the medicine. I went again and I ate seafood again. Same shrimp. I prepared it both times. And I was like, okay, something's wrong. And I talked to my mom. Like I said, my mom has hyperthyroidism. She said, well, listen, maybe it's that extra thing. So I stopped taking it. Within 3 weeks, I stopped taking it. I ate shrimp again prepared by myself, by me. I had no reaction. I went back to this doctor and I said to him, listen, Dr. B, that extra medicine caused me to have an allergic reaction to shrimp, and I've always ate shrimp all my life. And he told me that wasn't possible. That wasn't possible. So I said to him, it is possible, because I've never had an allergic reaction to shrimp and I prepared it myself. So I don't understand how it's not possible. So from there is when I looked at him through a different lens, because at the end of the day, if your healthcare provider can't respect your opinion and what's going on with you, and that things may affect you differently than the other person or that group that they do their measures on, meaning, okay, side effects include such and such, but for Tashina, that response was an allergic reaction to iodine, which I told y'all I have that now. Ever since, I've had an issue with iodine ever since taking that one pill for about 6 weeks. So you just have to find a healthcare provider that's a good advocate for you, and be a good advocate for yourself. and be able to change things to make you better instead of worrying about what society says or what the doctor necessarily says. That's why at the same time I'm not even a person to say, well, don't take medicine. If you choose not to take medicine, that's your choice because everybody knows their own body.
Let me ask you a question. As you bring it up, hypothyroidism. This is the first time I've actually heard about it in detail. So when I ask a question, if you have more education on it than I do, is that something that is more prevalent for females than males? It is? Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Because my wife
Oh,
has
she
the
does.
same thing. My wife has. Actually, I don't know if she has hypo or hypo. I want to believe it's hypo, but she has I think thyroid. Period. Is the same
Wow.
thing.
What else? What else? Give me something else. If anything else in that is like that black women really have to dial in on. I want to make sure that if we're gonna have a
Fibroids.
fibroids.
Fibroids
Okay.
is one. But that's female sex genital health, reproductive health, heart disease for women, diabetes for women as well. I did want to touch on something that's personal to me. Sickle cell anemia.
Right.
It's big in the black community. My sister passed away from complications of sickle cell, so now I'm very conscious of it. Before, when you're younger,
Right.
but as her health declined, it became something that's very near and dear to me. But we as black people tend to not know our partner 100%. You meet this person and you're dating this person and you don't know they have sickle cell trait. The person has sickle cell. You end up with a baby with sickle cell. So you basically, I don't want to say damned your baby, but gave them the propensity to have sickle cell anemia. And sickle cell anemia is not a game. So I just, that's something that's important, and it affects the black community more aggressively because it does affect other races more than others, but mainly
Well, we
black.
didn't touched on a couple of these issues for black females. I want to touch on one for black males, and this is one that cats usually shy away from because the test is uncomfortable. The prostate exam.
Prostate.
Listen.
I
Wait. First of all, hold on. Simply because you said you already got yours suggests to me you ain't getting enough. First of all, this is a life to the day you die.
No. Don't get me wrong. When I say that, I got 1 year, then I got the checkup the year after. Since there was nothing to check up with the year after, they said I could wait another 5 years. So I'm getting mine regularly, but I'm saying I already started the process because every time you do it, if they kind of tell you when the next time you got to do it.
That's pretty much the key, man. Because actually, does the fit?
I had an uncle that died because he didn't want to. He's Jamaican, so he said, "I don't want nothing on my body hole." So he didn't get his shit done.
And you know why that's sad? Let me tell you why that's sad, right? Because I've learned that prostate cancer is very treatable. Matter of fact, if you remove the prostate completely, the survival rate is very high. And it's sad that there would be guys out there who may not get the chance to catch some prostate cancer early simply because of that fear or whatever, that I don't want to call it insecurity or whatever, but for right. Well, all right. Okay. Fine. I mean, I thought about that early on when I was younger. Like when you're young and you think you're invincible, like shit like that. Of course you want to entertain. I'm talking about now. Any brother in his 30s, you better be thinking about your health. I don't care if you got if you got 5% body fat. Well, obviously if you got 5% body fat, you're thinking about your health. But people who are not, man, you need to focus on that. Males especially, and I'm speaking from that place. Because as a black male, I'm focusing a lot more on my health. Lost some people in my life as in recent. Seen some friends lose some real close people, and it's really not a game. So go get yourselves checked out, man. Don't be afraid of the doctor. I'm not the one to say.
But one thing
and if it helps as far as the prostate, they put you to sleep, so you don't even know nothing's going up there. So you
the prostate exam.
They put me to sleep. Like I felt they put me to sleep.
What the fuck? Wait, hold on. Now you gonna make me question where you getting your medical?
Actually, you know what?
Listen, man.
It was a
colonoscopy. Okay.
My
You
bad.
don't make me one. Like, cause you know, yeah, Martin. Wait, what was that joke?
But I have to say that I'm very leery of doctors in certain ways. Like Dane was just saying, he did one year and had to do it again, and then he has to wait 5 years in between. Don't think that that 5 years is something that you have to wait for, because the other day I went and had my GYN checkup, and I ended up having to get another test on top of it because they saw some abnormalities, and then on the second test it was clear, but they told me, oh, in another 3 years. No, homegirl,
There you go.
check this every year.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, because every year their recommendations change, or every few years they check out the stats and their recommendations change. But again, you have to be conscious of your body and what you want to ensure is okay, and see if your health plan can provide for it, and say, well, listen, I had some abnormalities in 2017 and I would like for you to continue to check it. You have a right to do that. Once you have an abnormality, you have a right to say, I need to be checked every year or every 2 years instead of that. But in the interim, like a male, like let's say Dane did it 2018, and then something's wrong. Are you going to wait the 5 years because the doctor said wait 5 years? No, you should know that something is wrong with my body. Something's wrong here. I'm bleeding. I'm having difficulty. You know what? And then say, listen, but this is where these men, and this is what the men do. They are like, well, the doctor told me 5 years, so I'm gonna wait 5 years. No, a woman.
You see, like I think with the thing like prostate and colonoscopy, that makes it harder for people is that because you don't really have those kind of pain indicators. You don't have anything to tell you that you got something wrong. That's something you gotta actively do, which is
which one is which what were you referring to? That's what the prostate you talking about? But I mean, if you think about some of these older men, what starts letting them know that they might be having prostate issues is the urinating, having issues being. But I think at that point, that's what I was going to say. Right.
I'm saying like we do it early. Yeah, I mean, you don't really have those pain indicators until you actually.
Right. Well, then that. Listen, folks. Listen, man. The moral of this whole episode, man, is early detection, education. Get up on your health, because man, we need it, man. Want to thank Tashi, Anyae, my man DB. I'm G Cleve, Reality Gurus. Take care.